Two educators want to help white teachers and parents provide tools that address how to pursue racial equity and literacy at home. Teaching While White is the new book that educators, diversity consultants, and co-founders Jenna Chandler Ward and Elizabeth Denevy have written, and they join us this morning to talk about their guide. Jenna, I wanted to start with you. Tell us about your inspiration for this book.
Well, I was a classroom teacher for many years, and through my education process, my master's in education, I was never taught about equity, diversity, identity, how they impact teaching and learning. And through mistakes I made daily in the classroom and harm I was causing unintentionally, but trying to be a good teacher, but still not understanding that I had no racial awareness, I slowly came to think about it more, to learn more, to work with my students more, and really consider how my identity, particularly as a white woman, was impacting teaching and how people received my teaching. And coupled with Elizabeth Denevy, we started a blog and a podcast to talk about how whiteness is being talked about in education, because we know over 84% of educators in this country are white. And usually when we're talking about race in education, we're talking about Black and Brown students and families. And so wanted to really think about whiteness. So that's how we started the project, and it ultimately became a book.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you as an educator recognize that and you did something about it to make that change. So what role can white people play in dismantling racism?
Well, I think it's really important. I think it is a white people problem in a sense because we've created it, and so we need to just start talking about race in general. And for too long, white folks have been silent, not talking about race at all, for fear of saying the wrong thing,
Mhm.
doing the wrong thing. It comes with good intentions, but again, the impact is that silence is not neutral. And so I think the very first thing parents, educators, any white person at all actually is to start talking about race, to start naming whiteness as a race, to
Mhm.
start locating ourselves within this situation.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I wanted to bring you in the conversation. How can white teachers talk about race in their classrooms and model anti-racism for all of their students?
Well, I think they can start with themselves about understanding and naming their own race. I grew up in Northern California, and I don't ever remember having explicit conversations about race. And certainly, majority of my teachers look like me. I don't remember them ever talking about their identity, how they walk through the world, or how they experience their racial
Mhm.
experiences and backgrounds. So, one thing would be to have them start to talk about themselves, their own stories, and then I think thinking about the ways in which they can connect with their students, some of whom may have the same racial background, some may have a different racial background, and sort of thinking about, how could I make connections with these students? In what ways are our experiences similar? In what ways are they different? I also think in our research and our work, we found that we do know that white teachers have different practices
Right.
around either assessment,
Mhm.
picking curriculum, all kinds of things that teachers do every day that are impacted by our experiences in the world. So, being more aware and knowing where we came from in our experiences and how that might influence our choices and our interactions in the classroom.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Me being someone who is Black and Hispanic, I grew up having those conversations with people that I related to and my parents as well. So I think it's so important that people who are white and just all other ethnicities are having these conversations so that there's that connection and being able to identify and understand each other even better. Now, Elizabeth, how has education become a racial battleground?
Well, schools are not separate from the wider community. And what we see happening across this country is a real question about the role of race, what has been the racial impact in this country. And so I think those things don't stop at the school doors. So I think schools have become a place where a lot of these issues are being fought because I think parents are struggling to know how to have conversations with their students,
Yeah.
with their children. And so I think then they're wondering, well, what conversations are my teachers having
Hmm.
with my children?
Right.
And so really getting nervous sort of about, we didn't have these conversations. This is not something we ever talked about. Why suddenly now is this coming up in the school? And
Yeah.
we work with white students and students of color around the country. We hear from white students that they really They want adults to be able to talk with them honestly and openly about what's going on. They ask for good resources, they want accurate information, and then they want a space not to be told what to think,
Right.
but they want a place to be able to think more deeply
Mm-hmm.
about why does race matter, what's gone on, what's happened, and
Yeah.
they just are counting on us as teachers to give them to the space to
Yeah.
have these really important conversations
Yeah,
because they're
I think
generally
that's
not
so,
happening.
yeah, it's so needed. Elizabeth and Jenna, I could talk to you all day. We're running out of time, but I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about this. It's needed. For more information, visit teachingwhilewhite.org.